Hello everyone, and welcome to the second tier list update video. I know I said I'd do these update videos about every 6 months, and it's been, I think, 7 or 8 at this point, and I apologize for that, but I have been fairly busy, so hopefully the next one will be right on time for you. So of course we're going to start off where we left off last time, and correct a couple mistakes and talk about a few from the last list before we get into the new characters. I'm going to put this image up on screen. It's the same one that I showed you in the last video. If any of you need a refresher on how I rank these characters, my process for ranking the characters that are already on the list, you should go ahead and you should watch the other videos before continuing with this one. But yeah, without further disclaimer, let's get right into it. And we're going to start off with the two that I forgot to put in the list last time, and that's Voldemort and Tyler Durden. So Voldemort is a pretty easy one to rank. He's gonna go in S tier for sure. Where exactly? I don't know. Probably next to Ammon. Right, come on, right there. Which is fitting, considering they're played by Ralph Fiennes, both of them. And even though that's fitting, he might not necessarily stay there, because when compared to the characters around him, I'm not quite sure if he's worse than any of the ones that come before him if I place him here. I think I'll leave him here for now, and we'll revisit his placement at the end of the video. But I mean, it's not hard to place Wizard Hitler in S tier, so he's probably pretty comfortable up there. As for Tyler though, he's a little more complicated. I'm inclined to put him in B tier, somewhere in B tier, because he did commit his fair share of crimes, but they weren't too egregious. They were still crimes, and his plan to dismantle modern society had a whole host of implications, and if he would have succeeded, it would have definitely been a net negative for the world. And he was assuming that it was going to be a positive, so it's not like he was trying to dismantle society to cause people misery. So more than anything, he's misguided and idealistic. So I don't think putting him below B is fair, because he could have caused a lot more harm with what he was doing. But I think the bottom of B tier actually sounds like a good spot for him. So I think we'll leave him there. Now this next one is something that people have been asking me to put in since the first video, and I forgot last time, and that's the Overlook Hotel. So we already have Jack Torrance down here, but in The Shining, there's Jack, and then there's the hotel. And while Jack isn't the greatest person, the hotel is the real evil in the movie, so I should rank it. I have a feeling that it's more complicated, but at the same time, not so complicated to rank it, because it's really just a supernatural entity that's just consuming people to feed its existence. And maybe you could argue that it's doing that for survival, kind of like an animal, but it's also a malicious murderer. So I don't know, honestly, depending on how you feel about the hotel, it could be an S tier, or it could be a D tier, or anywhere in between. I'm gonna go off the malicious intent and place it in S tier. Maybe next to, these other supernatural guys, like Pennywise. Pennywise is also fueling its existence by killing people. But it goes beyond simple survival, because to make his food more delicious, he terrifies them and causes them misery. So maybe the hotel is similar in that way, and it sounds appropriate to place it next to another Stephen King character. Let me know what you guys think about this one down below, because I'm obviously pretty wishy-washy on it. So now we're going to discuss 3 characters that were placed on the list last time that a lot of you commented about and changed my mind about. And that's Morgoth, Gus Fring, and Bill. So originally, I placed Morgoth right behind Palpatine in S tier. But a lot of you pointed out that Morgoth, unlike Palpatine, essentially created evil in Middle-earth. So it doesn't seem right to place an entity who created evil below someone who is an agent of it. Now, the reason that I placed Morgoth below him before is because I was considering that in the Tolkien universe, perhaps there are other planets, other creatures, other aliens in that universe, which would make Morgoth the greatest evil on only one planet, whereas Palpatine is the greatest evil in thousands of star systems. However, if we're operating off the assumption that Middle-earth is the only source of life in the Tolkien universe, which is probable, then Morgoth's evil affects every living being in that universe. So if that's the case, then yes, he is above Palpatine. Now, some of you might have heard me say this in different places like Discord, or even in the Palpatine video, and I don't want you to get confused here. Morgoth is the most evil character that I've covered across all mediums, but Palpatine is the most evil cinema villain, and that's not likely to change anytime soon. So I just wanted to clarify that for anyone who might be confused. Now, Gus, I originally had him right below Walter, and a lot of you made good points about Gus versus Walter on the scale of evil, and honestly, between the two, who's worse is probably up to personal preference and your own views. And if I knew more about Gus's family, or who he was at home, I'd have a lot more to say about him when comparing him to Walter. But because I don't, I will give him a courtesy bump and place him below Tony. I think that's fair. Again, you can tell me otherwise again down in the comments. Maybe he deserves to go a little above Tony. Maybe, all right, if I'm going to place him by Tony, he probably deserves to go above him, because I don't think Tony would kill children, and Gus would. And if I'm going by that criteria, then I think that Walt might. In fact, Walt did. Well, he didn't. Todd did. And he seemed pretty okay with it. He kept him employed after he did so. So maybe Walt goes above Tony as well. And I think you do too, because I'm going to guess that Noah Cross would too. So Noah Cross is now the line between gangsters who would kill children and gangsters who wouldn't kill children. So let me know what you think about that rearrangement. Maybe you'll be satisfied, maybe you won't, we'll see. Now Bill, the reason that I'm moving Bill around, and that's because someone named Matt Horton commented and reminded me that Bill killed innocent people. And in the last video, I forgot that he did that. So he does need to go higher on the list. And I don't know if Bill would kill children. He is a criminal, more so an assassin. So I don't know if he deserves S tier, but he might deserve to go next to the other Bill, which there's a lot of matching going on this time around. So maybe that's a sign. I don't know, maybe he deserves S tier, maybe not. So your help would be appreciated. Okay, so now on to the new characters. Starting off with Saul. He's a criminal, but he's more of an accessory than anything. And though he helped Walter with nearly everything, and Gus with other stuff to a lesser extent, he probably deserves to go in B tier, because he's not innocent by any stretch of the imagination. And he's not exactly sympathetic either. He made his bed, and he helped brutal criminals do horrible things. So maybe down here with Tyler is appropriate, because he's definitely not the worst character on this list. But if you factor in how many crimes he helped commit, whether consciously or unconsciously, that's a lot of misery sowed to a lot of people by proxy. So maybe he deserves to go lower. But Lalo, on the other hand, I could see Lalo killing children. Definitely. And I don't know if you can put a cartel henchman higher than a cartel boss. But then again, Lalo is a boss in his own right. I don't know, maybe a step higher than Gus, just because of the more personal, brutal acts we see him commit. But he's kind of like the exact opposite of Gus personality-wise, but as far as actions, I think they're about equal. So that seems fine to me. But again, Breaking Bad characters always have the most discussion in the comments, so let me know what you guys think about this. And then we have Jeremiah Sand, one of my favorite characters of all time. Mandy is such a great movie. If you guys haven't seen it, you have to. It's a whirlwind, and a great whirlwind at that. But he deserves to go in S tier. He's very Charles Manson-esque, totally self-centered, 100% egotistical. There's nothing redeeming about what he does. He's a cult leader who murders people, brainwashes people, and there's really nothing good to say about Jeremiah Sand. He's not doing anything that he's doing because he was raised in this lifestyle or had bad influences. He was just a horrible person all around. So I have a feeling like here, or maybe here, works for Jeremiah. Kind of a similar cultish dynamic in Ready or Not, but I don't think he's worse than anyone above him. Now, Candyman might be a little weird to place, because you'd think he would go here, somewhere, next to Freddy and Michael. They're very similar, but when you look at his backstory, he's more of a tragic figure, and while he's killing for fun, in a sense, there's more to it than that, unlike Freddy and Michael. So I would say actually he goes down here with Pinhead, who is also a supernatural killer, but there's more to him than just a desire to kill. So B tier is probably where Candyman goes, and I think that's pretty fair. And then another person who should go in B tier is Baby Jane Hudson, who would probably do well to go next to like Margaret White. Both abused a family member, both are clearly sick, and both were made into who they are. And her story is actually quite sad. And maybe I should have put Blanche on here as well, her sister, because though their father made Baby Jane, Blanche didn't help her in any way. In fact, she hurt her quite a lot. And maybe next time around I'll stick Blanche on here and we can talk about her then. But I think that's a good spot for Baby Jane. Now, Johan is a tricky one, because anyone who knows about him knows that he seems like he's pure evil. And if we were going on actions and character alone, then Johan would be an S tier. But if we're factoring in the tragedy that's associated with his character, then he's much more comfortable next to someone like the Joker, who is also a tragic character. But a tragic character who does a lot of harm and commits a lot of evil. Evil that can't be excused, and that's extremely heinous. So this is another one that's probably up to personal preference, but for me, I think Johan deserves to be up here in A tier. Now the Armitage family, just right up here next to the Ladomas family, another cult-like organization, the Order of the Coagula, and what they're doing there's no excuse for. I mean, they were raised to be how they were, but what they do is horrible, and I can't see them anywhere lower than this. And now we move on to The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, which, if you haven't seen the video, is my favorite movie of all time. So of course I think these three are some of the greatest characters ever created. As far as evil goes though, Blondie is the least evil of the three, but what spot that earns him I don't know. I mean, if we want to go with the outlaw theme, in A tier, we can stick him up here. I keep pairing him up like this. I swear I'm not doing that on purpose. He's still a criminal. He is a criminal. He's an honorable criminal for the most part, but we really don't know what crimes he's committed. So because he's a criminal who's committing crimes because he wants money, he does deserve to be here, but probably at the bottom. I think that works. And then though Angel Eyes is considered the worst of the three, Tuco isn't really far behind. Tuco's just more lovable, but Tuco's rap sheet is huge. At one point they're listing it off in the film, and it's a lot. So both of them are probably like here in A tier. Tuco's probably more redeemable than Angel Eyes is, so maybe Angel Eyes deserves to go in S tier or maybe even higher in A tier. Yeah, I don't know. I think I'll leave him there for now and maybe revisit him at the end of the video or maybe in the next video when you guys tell me otherwise. But it's a little difficult to place them, especially with all the characters we have going on now. I think as time goes on, it's going to get more and more difficult to keep this list in the same order. So maybe on the next update, we'll place everybody and then we'll do a reorganization. But for now, I think I'm going to leave it how it is. Let me know what you guys think of that idea down below too. So next is the Green Goblin, and he's definitely not pure evil. There's some tragedy baked into his character. So maybe he goes up here with the Joker. Whether the Joker should be higher or lower, I'm not sure, but that does seem like a good spot for him. And then Colonel Jessup, he's probably D tier? Wow, Jack gets it easy. Huh. But I mean, he's just following orders, and that's not an excuse, obviously. But if you want to compare him to everyone else on this list, him being a product of the military and kind of stuck in his ways, so to speak, doesn't make him a villain, really. Negligent, but I don't think we can place him high on the list for that. So that seems alright. Maybe we'll fix him later. Immortan Joe is kinda weird, because I feel like I want to put him here in S tier, but at the same time he built a society in a post-apocalyptic wasteland, and as messed up as that society is, he saved a lot of lives, I'm sure. He's a conqueror more than anything, and a twisted conqueror, and that might be a good discussion to have in general about where conquerors rank in our collective minds in regard to being evil. We can talk about how he abuses his women, not so much abuses them, but imprisons them, and no, he abuses them. I'm wrong, it's abuse. I don't know, if I'm gonna place him lower, I'd have to place Tywin lower, because their actions do result in good things happening, but does that outweigh what they do? I don't think so. So I guess the bottom of S tier works. Yi Yu-jin is another one that I want to put in S tier, sort of, because torturing a man because he started a rumor that caused your sister to commit suicide isn't excusable. I mean, it's tragic to an extent, but does that tragedy allow him to be lower on this list? I think it would if he had something else going on aside from tragedy, like a disorder, like a Norman Bates, or a Baby Jane, or a Joker. But Yi Yu-jin is lucid, and he knows what he's doing, and the only reason he's doing it is for revenge. So yeah, obviously he's not as bad as anyone else up here, but just because of his motivations and what he does, I do think he's worse than anyone down here. Because what redeeming qualities does he have? Not many, I think. But I could be wrong, so let me know down below. Another one I'm kind of wishy-washy on. Lil Zay, though, he gets S tier, and there isn't really any question about that. Or at least there shouldn't be. Because yeah, Lil Zay was raised in a horrific environment, and he's got ASPD, but how sadistic and brutal he is, it's rough to sympathize with him at all. So I would say he goes like here, because it's not even just a job to Lil Zay, which is what keeps criminals down here. Because there's something influencing them, that they were born into it, peer pressure, things like that. And I mean, Lil Zay, he was born into it and he has peer pressure, but what he does goes beyond just making a living for himself. But if I'm gonna put Tommy DeVito down here, maybe Lil Zay needs to go next to him, or Tommy needs to be moved up. But Tommy at least has some honor. Lil Zay has absolutely none. None whatsoever. He would kill anyone, anywhere, anytime, for any reason. And he would enjoy it all the way. So, no, I think that's fine. I think he deserves to be there. Billy Chapman, though, he's, right here in B tier. He commits a lot of crimes, he murders a lot of people, but a lot of tragedy, Maybe like over here. And he was trying. He was trying to be a good person. But too much trauma. Too much trauma in his world. So he can stay right there. Now, I was saying Jack Nicholson was getting a break, but not anymore. Look at that beautiful face. Don't you just love that picture? I could not resist when I was making the thumbnail for that video. So perfect. But anyway, he's not a child killer, but he is a child groomer. But then again, a lot of these guys probably are. And I don't mean groomer in a sexual sense. I meant grooming into a criminal lifestyle. So maybe not worse than these guys, but he's around here. Probably above Tony. Probably above Tuco. Yeah, next to Noah Cross. I think they'd get along quite well. Well, they wouldn't get along. It's not like they'd be friends, but I'd bet they would do business good together. That's for sure. But another guy I want to throw in S tier is Julian. Which might seem weird. You know, why am I putting a chef up in S tier? But where's the tragedy? I mean, yeah, the restaurant business is rough. Trust me, I know. But does that mean you get to form a cult and kill a whole bunch of people? I don't think so. Poor me is not really an excuse to kill people. Neither is you suck, which is essentially what his reasonings boil down to. And if we're factoring in the cult stuff, he's up here. But then again, it's hard to say like, oh, he's worse than Anton or Hans Landa. I don't know. I think he deserves to be up here. Where is kind of up for debate. But I got no sympathy for the guy. He's a cool character, but he's awful. So he can just stay there for now. And would you look at that? Look at this. Why do I keep doing this? Whatever. I swear, I'm not doing it on purpose, I promise. But anyway, Kefka, he's definitely sympathetic. Because he's a science experiment. That's basically what he is. But he did destroy the whole world in Final Fantasy VI. So while we can sympathize with him, not really much excuse for what he did. So I think A tier's good, high A tier, and oh, look what I'm gonna do. Where's he going? Where's he going? Right there, next to a Final Fantasy character. Imagine that. Wow, that seems to be the theme of this video. But yeah, both of them destroyed the world. Both of them are sympathetic in a way. That seems like a good spot for him. So, next to his Final Fantasy buddy he goes. And then Light is actually going to go right next to Yevon, because he's similar to these three. All three of them committed mass murder for a quote-unquote good cause. And they got a lot of selfishness in their characters, but they're not, Palpatine level of evil. Because at least they were trying to do something good. Trying is the key word here. But their crimes are extensive and horrific. So, can't justify placing him any lower, that's for sure. Now, Koba's a difficult one. Our first animal in the series. I think at least, right? Oh, no. Scar. Scar's a lion. Okay. Second animal. First CGI animal. Huh? Okay. He was kind of trying to make ape society better. He was being cautious. He was fearful of the humans. He wanted to take action to ensure that his people would survive. But at the same time, he did kind of show that he wanted power. So, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. That can be said for a lot of characters on this list. I don't know. Maybe here. Here. I think that's fine. Kinda hard to put him lower. We'll see. Maybe we'll change it later. Raoul's tragic. Definitely a tragic character. But in a way, he reminds me of Julian. Similar kind of poor me attitude. Though, to be fair, he did have a lot of messed up stuff happen to him, and he's definitely more tragic than Julian. I think maybe he goes towards the bottom of S tier, just because everything he was doing was just pure revenge. There was no reason beyond that for him taking the actions that he took. And like Yu Jin, he's quite lucid. Or maybe not. Maybe his time being tortured warped his mind beyond the point of no return. So I don't know, maybe S is a little harsh. Maybe here with the Riddler. Also getting revenge, had a hard life. Yeah, that seems a lot better. I think he can stay there. Killmonger, also tragic, lost his dad, bad environment, kind of wanted to help by being brutal, wanted to be king, kind of power hungry. If we're going to go by what he accomplished, then I'd say B tier. If we're going to go by what he could have done, if he had won, he's going to be up here. But because he didn't win, and we're not going to go off hypotheticals, I think he goes in B tier. He's kind of like Tyler, where he did a good amount of damage, but in the end, he was stopped. So that sounds about right for Killmonger. Oh, but then again, if we factor in how many people he's killed, I don't know, because a lot of those people were killed during wartime, if I'm correct, but also when he was a criminal. So maybe he can go like here, just for that, and I guess because of the potential. I don't know. You guys let me know what you think about that one. So Judge Holden is interesting now, especially with the Morgoth change. If what I said about Morgoth being the devil and having hold over everyone in the Tolkien universe is true, then the judge should go right next to him. Because my theory is that the judge represents the devil, or he is the devil. And while I do believe in other life forms, and I don't think we're alone in the universe, as of now, we don't really know if there are other life forms out there. So that would mean that the judge, as Satan, would be the original evil in the story of Blood Meridian, and therefore right up there with Morgoth. I'd like to clarify for anyone who's wondering, since I'm talking about Satan, that I'm not making any claims about the divine at all here. I'm only talking about the judge as Satan in relation to the story of Blood Meridian, just in case you were wondering something like that. Now, Elijah Price is interesting because he's tragic for sure, but there's no real need for what he's doing. I mean, okay, superheroes as an oppressed people, yeah, there is a need for what he's doing. But there's a lot of implications surrounding what he's doing. So, I mean, if we look at him like a liberator, I guess he's like C tier. If we look at him like a crazed murderer, he's like A tier. But I don't know, I guess their intent was for him to be kind of a liberator-esque figure. So he most likely belongs in C tier. But he could also be in D tier if you want to excuse him as a freedom fighter. So this might be another personal preference one. I think I'm just going to put him at the bottom of C tier. Now this one I'm doing on purpose. Buffalo Bill can go up next to Lecter. I don't know if he's worse than him. I don't know, it's kind of hard to say who's worse, you know? They both killed a lot of people. I'm pretty sure Hannibal killed more, so that might give him the edge, but that's about right for a placing for him. And now we're at everything that I talked about in The Last of Us. And even though I said it in the video, and technically they don't belong on the list, I did want to include them just in case people wondered why they weren't here. And I'm talking about the cordyceps, which in the video I made, I said that they're not evil, you know, so at all. I have a hard time claiming an entity that is only doing what it's doing to reproduce and sustain its life force as being evil. I think it's really hard to claim any malicious intent there. So, in my opinion, they shouldn't even be here. they should be gone from this list. But just because I mentioned them, I will put them at the bottom of D tier. And just because by nature they aren't evil, doesn't mean that we're not supposed to have a negative opinion of them and just say, oh, might as well let them do what they're doing because they're only trying to survive. No, they are a plague to us, but to say that they're evil is going a little too far in my view. Now, Fedra is interesting because if you watch the video, I talked about how in a post-apocalyptic world, it's almost inevitable that some kind of tyrannical government is going to take hold. Because in the very early stages of an apocalypse, it's all about who has the most firepower and whether or not they can maintain order. And while tyrannical governments aren't a good thing, order in these scenarios does save a lot of lives. So organizations like these seem to be more of a necessary evil, at least in the beginning stages of new societies forming out of old ones, but they more than deserve to be dismantled and replaced with something else. So because of the good that they do, maybe, middle of the pack, B tier, top of B tier. But again, not a good thing, just something that you kind of have to deal with, and when you have the opportunity, you should try and replace them with anything else. This guy though, David, up here. They didn't really portray him as such in the game, but in the show they made him a cult leader. And I think, yeah, he's probably worse than Jeremiah. Especially when in the show they talked about him being a teacher before the world went to hell. And if he was a teacher before the world fell, and he's preying on little girls now, that calls into question whether or not he was doing it back then, or he was planning to. And all around, he's just horrible. I would hope that no one has any arguments about putting him up there. Joel is complicated. I think he might go in like high C tier. Just because he's done a lot of bad things, and saving Ellie was an irrational decision that could have either been right or wrong. But he's just been through so much, and in this post-apocalyptic world, it's hard to fault people for trying to survive, and it's hard to fault a pseudo-father figure for doing whatever he can to save his pseudo-daughter. So I don't know, maybe he deserves to go lower, but that sounds about right for Joel. Now this image is supposed to represent the hunters in The Last of Us, who are essentially the people who tried to take down Fedra, or whatever institution was in the city that they were in, and instead of doing anything good when they took down these institutions, they messed everything up and probably caused the deaths of a lot of people, and then after that, they went on to be bandits and scavengers. So they're just a bunch of screw-ups who did something completely unnecessary. It's hard to have too much sympathy for them. I don't think they're S tier because again, post-apocalyptic world, they're trying to survive. But they're not like Joel. Maybe some on an individual level, but who knows? I think like bottom of A tier works for them. Oh, and look at that. I forgot to put the fireflies in. So that'll be a correction on the next video. I'm sorry, guys. If I had to take a guess where they're gonna go, it's probably next to Fedra, or like lower than them. But they have as much potential to cause harm while doing good things as Fedra does. So yeah, they'll probably go somewhere in B tier. Not next to Fedra, now that I'm thinking about it. But we'll discuss that in the next video, obviously. Now, Am is weird because, revenge. Revenge, that's what he's all about. That's why he killed everyone except 5 people. And that's why he's torturing them. So he's got a lot of tragedy baked into his character, and you can sympathize with him, but to what degree can you sympathize with him? Because if he's really in that much horrific agony, I'm sure he could figure out a way to shut himself off. But then again, just because he's in agony doesn't mean he wants to die. You know, suicide should never be the first option for anybody, and Am as a sentient being doesn't have to give in to despair like that if he doesn't want to. But then again, you can't really excuse him for his whole existence being centered around revenge. Yeah, I feel bad for him, but those are some heavy crimes. Heavy crimes. So I don't know. I think his sympathy is way outweighed by what he does, and it's probably a good idea to put him up here. But I don't know. Maybe the sympathetic aspects of his character make it so he deserves to go lower. I'm not really sure. But you can let me know down below. Lord Summerisle, and this also represents his people. Actually, no. I should have maybe put his people in here. His people would probably go in B tier. Maybe I'll put them in the next video too. But Lord Summerisle himself, not as bad as the other cult leaders, but I think he goes in S tier. Just because he knows what he's doing, and he's aware that sacrificing Officer Howie isn't going to do anything, but he does it anyway, just so he can maintain order on his island and stay in power. I don't see any reason to put him lower. These three, on the other hand, the members of the League of Shadows, and they can represent the League of Shadows as a whole, all probably go up here, next to the other characters who are doing horrible things for a quote-unquote good reason. So, no excuse for their massive amount of crimes, but they are doing what they're doing for a more idealistic reason, and I don't think we can put them in S tier. Now we got all the criminals in Pulp Fiction, and they don't all deserve to be clumped up together, that's for sure. Like Butch, he's like a D tier, like maybe top of it, because he does kill two people, but one is accidental and one is in self-defense. And the person he kills in self-defense is a gangster who was trying to kill him. So you can't really sympathize with the other guy here. But he wanted to make a better life for himself by getting one over on some criminals, and a guy died because of it. And what he does, and a lady got shot in the leg, even though he didn't shoot her. If Marcellus wasn't following him, she wouldn't have got shot in the leg. So there's a lot of things that he did that were unnecessary. So he deserves to be on the list, but probably not that high. Now, Jules and Vincent, I should have had them next to each other. Because they're a package duo, kinda. Well, I mean, they're partners, but that doesn't mean they're the same. Vincent is your average run-of-the-mill gangster. Probably somewhere here, you know, next to Vincent. I did it again. Two Vincents right next to each other. Wow. Okay. We gotta get going. I hope there's no more that I can do this to. We'll see. That sounds good. Vincent and Vincent. That's fine. Jules on the path to redemption. Maybe he goes here. No. Higher than Blondie a little bit, I think. No, actually, because if he's going to redeem himself, Blondie's going to keep going. Yeah, the Hunters are worse than him, too. Still a criminal. We don't know if he's actually going to redeem himself. So if we go off what we know, I think, A tier is fine for him. Winston Wolfe, who might be, a former gangster, done his fair share of killing and robbing and all that fun stuff, he could probably go up here somewhere. But if we go off of what we know again, then he's like a really messed up garbage man. So how evil is the guy who cleans up after gangsters? He didn't help them do what they did. He's only helping them hide their crimes. I guess because of what we know, he can go in, D tier, I guess. Because he's not like Saul, who's helping criminals clean up too, because he's a lawyer, and he defends them, but he's also helping them commit crimes. Winston doesn't help them commit crimes, he just cleans up. So I think that makes sense, but let me know if it doesn't. Okay, Ringo and Honey Bunny are a package deal, and since they say that they don't want to kill anybody, we can assume that they haven't killed anybody. I don't think they deserve to be up here with these kind of criminals, but down here, because they're thieves. I mean, not even C tier then. They're just thieves. Yeah, they scare people and they steal from them, but they're thieves. Batman gets to go down too, I guess. But I still have more sympathy for Leatherface. And Hal too can go down here. And Batman is Batman, so over here. Yeah, a couple of thieves. Petty thieves at that. Not like Gordon Gekko, who very well could have caused thousands upon thousands of people to lose their homes, their livelihoods, what have you. Yeah, we'll leave him there. Marcellus, you know, a crime boss. He can go with the other crime bosses. I don't think he'd kill children. Below Tony. I think that's a good spot for him. And then we got Zed here, who is representing both him and Maynard. And I did talk about the possibility of the Gimp being in on it when I made the video. And that's my fault because Quentin Tarantino actually confirmed in an interview that the Gimp is supposed to be like some biker they picked up 7 years ago that they trained and abused to be like that. And that's my fault because I'm the one who should be doing the research. But I based my assumption that he could possibly be in on it on the fact that he laughs at Butch when Marcellus is getting abused. And not only that, but because he doesn't speak or anything, we also don't know if the role he's playing is a part of some kind of extreme form of kink, which, though rare, is possible. So that's why I said it was a possibility, but now I've confirmed that it's not. And I talked about that in a comment thread on the video if you want to go there and see what I wrote. But anyway, Zed, no rhyme or reason for what he's doing. It's not exactly a cult, but him and Maynard are just picking up people and abusing them for their own pleasure. And he'd probably get along pretty well with David. So they can pal around together up there. Stringer Bell, though what he tried to do was very admirable. You know, tried to get out of the life, tried to go legit. He did it the wrong way and he paid the price for it. So he's kind of actually like Alonzo, who wasn't trying to get out of the life, but he was, you know, skirting the lines between the two. And he did a lot of messed up things to a lot of people for his own benefit. I think Alonzo is worse than Stringer, but they probably go next to each other, if I'm not mistaken. And last but not least, we got Jobu Tupaki, who doesn't kill all the people that she kills for any kind of good reason. So we can't like place her at the top of A tier with these guys for that reason. But I don't think she deserves S tier because while she's enjoying, you know, blowing guys up into confetti in the film and everything else that she does to people in the film, her main goal is to relieve the pain that she feels, that she was made to feel by her mother. And she's definitely not pure evil. But if you factor in how many people she might have killed on a multi-universal scale, it could be in the trillions, quadrillions, quintillions, you know, infinite universes, infinite people to kill. So just because she's really, really tragic doesn't mean we can put her in D tier. No, we have to put her up here in A tier. And I think just because there's no good reason for her to be killing who she's killing, you know, she's only doing it to find the right Evelyn to end her pain, you can't say that what she was doing was for any kind of overall good cause like these guys, you know. So I think the top of A tier works for her based on what we know about her. And that's the list. Let's see if there's anyone that I would move around now. I think Am is fine there. I don't know. You guys tell me. Jeremiah. Yeah, Julian stays there. Lil Zay stays there. Yeah, Eugen stays up there too. Why am I going to every character? Sorry, guys. Sorry. Buffalo Bill, that's fine. That's also fine. That too. Yeah. Yeah, like I said, I'm kind of liking my placements now, but I do think there needs to be some reshuffling, like a heavy amount of reshuffling. So I don't know if I really want to move anyone this time around at the end, because I think, like I said for the next video, I think when I put all the characters in, we'll go through everyone and re-rank them based on who's around them. But for now, I think this is pretty good. But I could be wrong. Who knows? You might. Again, let me know down below if you disagree with any of these placements. You know, we all benefit from more insight into these characters, so please, let me know. But with that aside, I hope you all enjoyed this update, and I'm excited for the next one when we do the reshuffling. So again, thanks for watching everyone, and I'll see you soon.